Follow me.
We're basically taking a page from one of the original Crisis stories from the 60s, where there was the Justice League encountered a group of villains on a parallel Earth. They were called the Crime Syndicate.
There's a long tradition of Crisis stories at DC, usually involving parallel Earths. So in the past, you would see the heroes of Earth 1, our Justice League, meet the heroes of Earth 2, the characters that are now the Justice Society. As time went on, there were dozens of parallel Earths.
Different characters had different storylines, you know, and they would occasionally intersect.
DC felt that they needed to kind of pare things down and to simplify the universe because it was getting very, very confusing.
And in '85, DC did Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So they had this one big comic where they just killed off as many people as they could kill off to make it, like, I guess, one consistent universe.
First of all, the concept that we are the only living beings in the universe, just us real people, is preposterous. There's got to be life somewhere else in this universe. The idea that there are parallel Earths out there, that's a very interesting, intriguing idea. I think that's entirely possible.
With every choice we make, we literally create a world, creating one Earth where we made the choice, and a second where we didn't.
And if there are parallel beings, are they the opposite of what we are? Is there a, you know, if there were a real Superman, is there an evil Superman somewhere? If there is an evil Lex Luthor on our planet, is there a good Lex Luthor on another planet? I just think it's a fascinating concept.
Billions of people making billions of choices, creating infinite Earths.
I'm here because I'm the baddest of the bad. Anybody who ever stood in my way is dead. Everybody.
A DC fan, when they see something that's called Crisis, they know it's going to be a huge story, and we've certainly come through on that aspect.
We had a script from Dwayne McDuffie called Worlds Collide that was originally intended to be the next chapter in the Justice League Unlimited television series. But that series was canceled and wasn't going to come back. But Dwayne had written this terrific script. So we went to Dwayne and said, hey, you want to look at your old script and see if you want to just morph it a little more? So that's closer to really addressing the DC continuity and not addressing the Justice League Unlimited continuity. And he said yes, and we ended up with this terrific script.
A couple of times we had tried to do stories with the Crime Syndicate, which is a parallel Earth version of the Justice League.
And we said, well, okay, yeah, they're just called the Crime Syndicate just because that's just kind of a clever title. But what if they actually really were more like a crime syndicate and were like literally like the mafia?
They'll fold, or we'll fold them, just like everybody else who gets in our way.
The governments of the world are basically powerless to stop them. They're straight up evil. They have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. They're not misguided. They're not superheroes who have gone bad. They're just bad people.
They've run rampant for years, doing whatever they pleased. They rule through fear, occasionally turning their powers against the populace, just to remind us.
Our biggest challenge was just how do we squeeze all these characters in and still have it be interesting?
We didn't want anyone, you know, just sort of hanging out in the background and be like, oh, wow, look, they're in the movie. And Dwayne did a fantastic job of servicing each and every storyline.
We start with the Justice League going to a parallel Earth to try and help the people there free themselves from corruption.
There's an Earth that was wiped out by an epidemic that took care of everything. Another Earth that was wiped out because of a nuclear bomb. Another Earth where these characters were never born because the parents never met.
What you see is not always what you get, that everyone has layers, that everyone has levels.
People hear Lex Luthor, the name Lex Luthor, and they think, he's the bad guy. He's Superman's nemesis. In this particular piece, when we meet him, we think, okay, it's the bad guy, Lex Luthor. And then as the piece progresses, we find out this is a Lex Luthor from a parallel universe. This is a different Earth. This is a different reality. And this Lex Luthor is a good guy.
What do you think you're doing?
You're going to find what I have to say very difficult to believe.
You're from a parallel Earth. Your internal organs are reversed. Your heart is on the wrong side. It could be a trick.
Basically, Luthor is the last hero on Earth too. He's all the rest of the Justice League of that world have been wiped out by the crime syndicate.
I'm not just the leader of my world's Justice League. I'm its only surviving member.
What happens to a Superman when he meets up with Lex Luthor, who he can't comprehend may actually be good?
I don't trust him.
There's a surprise.
He's been so, burned by the old Lex Luthor that he's just like, you seem too good to be true.
Lex Luthor comes to Earth to enlist the aid of the Justice League to help the entire universe not to disappear. It's quite a fascinating concept.
Of course, the art style is awesome, and it's visually stunning.
With any one of the DCU animated movies, we always play around a little bit until we find, what feels like the right animation style for this particular piece.
The voice acting is stellar. There's wonderful people who you've heard before and people you've never heard before.
Billy Baldwin is playing Batman.
Get in here, we've got a problem. One of yours.
There's no one else there for you to perform with, so it forces you to hone in and focus on the performance aspects and the emotional aspects of what you're trying, and visualizing them in your head.
For Superman, we got Mark Harmon.
Our first responsibility is to protect the Earth.
That's right. Our Earth. We don't have enough manpower to even do that properly.
Fair enough, but we're talking about millions of people. We can't just turn our backs, we have to go.
He's a leader, he's a quarterback, he's the lead dog in the huddle. He's, he can be tough when he needs to be. He can certainly be direct. And no matter who he's talking to, he tries to speak honestly.
His instincts were awesome. He knew exactly what he was doing.
And then Chris Noth, of course, playing Lex Luthor.
I don't know. I'll destroy the world. Is that sufficient?
The feeling I get with animation is you have to make bold choices and go all the way through with them, which is very true with a lot of acting anyway.
And then you've got this truly evil Owlman, who was played by James Woods, who's awesome.
The device's Heisenberg uncertainty override allows us to tap into a limitless pool of destructive energy.
He's so completely out there as a character. He's not just, he's just an evil version of Batman. It's, he's twisted.
What good is a bomb if you don't detonate it? He's a very calculating, dangerous individual because of his extraordinary brain power. And at the same time, I think it causes him to have incredibly dark existential reservations about his acts.
I didn't get to work with him in the same room. He was in, I believe, Connecticut when we recorded him, so we used a satellite record and recorded him long distance. But he's so attentive and pays such attention to detail. And as I was listening to his track today, he's so subtle.
No more debate. I'm going to kill you now.
The typical thing of playing evil would be to be big and overt and, megalomaniac. And he plays it so quietly and so confidently. And his vixen, if you will, is played by Gina Torres. And they were not recorded anywhere in the same room at the same time. And yet their energy is exactly the same. She's a murdering psychopath. And that's what appeals to him about her. She's just as crazy as he is.
There's an infinite number of Earths out there to conquer. You and me, we wouldn't have to share our cut with the Syndicate. It's important to have strong images of women out there, women who aren't afraid of expressing themselves, women who aren't afraid of taking chances, women who aren't afraid of their own power.
And there's lots of great voices in this. And it's just an interesting piece that I personally found stimulating, interesting, fun to work on, different.
Crisis on Two Earths is a really exciting story to get involved in. You don't have to know anything really about these characters to jump in. You just got to know that they're superheroes. And you come in and you get to meet all of them, and you get to see different facets of each one, and you get to see a ton of action.
It's a huge story. It's the biggest Justice League story that we've ever tried to do.
It's the good guys and the bad guys just slugging it out. But there's a really personal, emotional story between two individuals who have feelings for each other.
I'd like to get to know the real you.
It's got something for everybody.
Why would you want to destroy the world?
Because it's the only action one could take that would have any purpose.